I hope you have the book. Also, you have to realize that we are coming to the end of this book. We need to acquire another book. I don't know if the Rivka sent out anything, but we need to think about the acquirement of the Parsha of the book of Vayikra. So on page 176 in your book, that's a problem. If you don't have a book, then you don't know there's a picture in the book. You see, you have a book, you see the picture?
Uh-huh.
There are two pictures. This is both from a Dutch painter, Johannes Vermeer.
Vermeer.
Vermeer, you know this guy?
I heard.
The left one is called the geographer, and the right one is called the astronomer. Besides the obvious difference between the two paintings, what message do they convey to the viewer? So anybody over there has the book? Most people don't have the book, so
Rabbi, what did you say?
Page 176. I'm looking at the book. So this is a picture that they show in the book. Geographer and the astronomer.
They're both very busy in whatever their job is. They're very
okay. What do you see the differences in the picture? How would you? They're both for the same painter.
One is staring out and one is steering in. One is
very good. Okay, very good,
world.
very good. I like that. One is staring out and one is staring in. One, the globe is on the shelf. The other one, the globe of the world, is right in front of him. Yeah. Whatever. You can come up with different interpretations. We're gonna learn the Sikha of the Rebbe, in which the Sikha of the Rebbe is going to explain us in the Parsha a very interesting concept. It's actually based on the Tanya that we learned today. The concept, the way Chassidus looks on the world, and the way God wanted it, really, the Torah wanted that a person should look on it. It's going to be a very, I would say, a very contrast kind of a concept that will maybe push you a little bit to either agree or disagree. And because it's going to be something that we deal with every day, and the way the Torah wanted that a Jew should look at the world. We live in a world. We are human beings, and we have human tendencies and human needs, and we live our lives in a real world. And then we learn the Torah, and the Torah wants you to live your life also. So the question is, do we wear two hats? Do we wear two different hats, or do we wear one hat? How the Torah wanted us to wear one hat, and which is not an easy thing to wear maybe one hat, because you can either be a person who is involved with the world, or a person that's involved with, geography more than the world, or the globe, the entire universe. How do you put the two hats on together? Can a painter create a picture of an astronomer and a geographer doing the same thing at the same time? It will be very difficult, and therefore this painter created two different pictures, because they're two different, in his eyes, they're two different realities, two different concepts, two different ways of thought. Okay, so let's look at the Sikha, what the Rebbe wants from us, and what the Torah, the Rebbe is telling us what the Torah wants from us in the building of this Mishkan. Now, it's truly fascinating, because if you listen to the Parsha this week, Vayakal Pekudei, it's really a repetition of Truma Tetzaveh. The difference is, Truma Tetzaveh is God's vision of the Mishkan. Vayakal Pekudei is man's creating this Mishkan. So it's amazing. That's why you'll see many times that it says that so they did what God commanded, because there's God's vision in this Mishkan, which is Truma Tetzaveh. God has a vision. He's the architect. He's the builder itself, and he has a vision that he wants and then you have man's creation. And to be able to have that God's vision and man's creation should be work out as one is truly an amazing accomplishment. And that was the amazing accomplishment of what they did. And that's why the Torah gives away 2 more portions to talk about man's creation. That man's creation and God's vision worked out perfectly. And that's why God, we mentioned this last week, God gives B'Tsalel Kel. God calls B'Tsalel, and he says I'm sorry, we mentioned it here. God calls B'Tsalel in the shadow of God. God says to find a person that's going to be able to do that, to be able to have God's vision and bring that God vision into a reality that it would work out perfectly. That needs to be somebody who is unique, somebody who takes their talents and uses their talent for the way God wanted their talent should be used, is just a phenomenal concept. And why does the Torah tell us? Because in essence, the Torah wants us all that we should all maybe try to our best ability to take our talents and use it out for the right purpose. So let's look at the Torah. It's on page 177. It's in Exodus chapter 35, verse number 30. And Moses said to the children of Israel, see, God has called by the name B'Tsalel, the son of Uri, the son of Hur, from the tribe. God has called the name of B'Tsalel. Look, unbelievable. God gave him his name. And he's filled him with Spirit of God in wisdom and understanding and knowledge and in all manners of workmanship, and to advise the skilled workers to work in gold and silver and in brass, and all the cuttings of stones and the settings and the carving of the wood. It's amazing. Now you have to realize this. Jews were over 200 years in exile. They did hard-breaking labor. They were all working with stones and brick and mortar, the Torah tells us. How did they know how to do all these things? How was there a capability for so many men and women to be so talented? And Nachmanides, in text number 2a, okay, finish. So God filled them with wisdom of the heart to work in all the manners of, because this was, if you learn the Torah, this was not a very easy thing to make. This Mishkan was a difficult thing to do. It was very, very precise, and things were very to the amount, to the quality, to the quantity. This was not an easy project. But even the menorah, we know the menorah, Rashi said that the menorah, they couldn't make the menorah. They couldn't figure out, how do you make this menorah? And God had to, according to the Medrash, the Eibush had to make the menorah come out on its own. He made the menorah itself. This was not an easy temple to put together. Therefore, Nachmanides writes, as slaves in Egypt, the Jews toiled with bricks and mortar, and not fine materials, and silver and gold, and precious gems. Well, how did the Jews know suddenly how to deal with all these issues? How is it possible to take a nation that has thus left slavery, working in the fields and cutting it, and make them into overnight, turn them into craftsmen of the most delicate, the most difficult concept to build? Nachmanides is brought it. They never saw such materials. Forget about it. They never dealt with them. They were slaves. They never saw these materials. It's thus miraculous. That's what the Nachmanides, it's a miracle that they found them, anyone amongst them, to master metallurgy, woodwork, and weaving. How did they find these guys? That's why it says the Eibishter filled them with wisdom. That's why the Pasuk says they had to be implanted into certain people wisdom, even amongst those apprentices. in these disciplines, you never find a single person who's a master of them all. And that was Bezalel. Bezalel was a master of all concepts, weaving, carpentry, working diamonds and in gold. And this guy was suddenly comes out of Mitzrayim, a guy Bezalel, he's a talented in all aspects. Even if there were Hebrews who were schooled in these disciplines, years of working on their hands in clay and straw would have ruined their ability to work in fine crafts. And that's why the Torah emphasizes that this was something out of the world. That they had the capability to do this was unbelievable. And Machmanis continues in text number 2b. He says, furthermore, Bezalel was extraordinarily wise to understand the secrets of the tabernacle and its vessels, to grasp the reasons for each one and to what they symbolically refer to. Therefore, God told to Moshe to appreciate this miracle and to know that he had bestowed Bezalel with the Spirit of God so he would understand how to build the tabernacle in the desert for his glory. So this is why Ayakel and Pekudei is so important, that to realize that Bezalel and all those that came around Eliyav and all those that worked in the men and the women were all special kind of people. As the Rebbe, as you'll soon see, that the Torah accentuates even the greatness of the women also in their involvement in this Mishkan. So Amar Rabbi Yehuda, text number 3, Rabbi Yehuda says, in the name of Rav, Bezalel knew how to arrange the letters in which the heavens and the earth were created. He knew he was a Kabbalist. When Moshe continues the Medrash, Moshe ascended on high, God showed him the vessels of the tabernacle. And he told him, this is precisely how everything in the tabernacle should be fashioned. When Moshe descended, he assumed that he would be able to fashion them. God called him and said to him, Moses, I've appointed you as king, and it's not befitting for a king to personally make items. Rather, he issued a decree to others to work. You too are not to make anything, rather instruct others to do so. You're the melech, you're the king. But God did not tell Moshe who that would be. So Moshe said, who should I instruct? I'm dealing with a bunch of slaves. How am I going to tell them this this detailed building? So God replied, I will show you. What did God do? He brought the book of Adam. Stand on, my friends. This is a medrash. He brought the book of Adam that depicted all the generations destined to ever live from the beginning of time until the resurrection of the dead. Each generation, its kings, its leaders, and its prophets. God said, I've predetermined everyone's role ready for that moment. Bezalel too was appointed at that time as a master craftsman. So the Eivisha says, why we're saying this medrash, self-understood, is so you realize that the medrash is in essence telling us that every person from Adam Rishon, when the Eivisha created Adam Rishon, there's a, so to say, symbolic book over there that the Eivisha created, gave everybody their talent. And one day, everyone's talent will be revealed. Whether he's going to be a doctor or a lawyer, an accountant, a rabbi, whatever their talent is, the Eibishter gave everybody their talent. That's a gift. Most of us think that we acquire our talents. No. Just like Bezalel and Eliyav and these people suddenly had a talent, right? They were in slavery for 200 years. Where did they have this talent? The Pasuk says the Eibishter gave them the talent. When did I give the talent? God says I gave the talent a long time ago. It's going to reveal in them right now their talent. I'm gonna reveal in them what the talent is gonna be. I predetermined everyone's role already from that moment. That's why it says, Chassidus says, when you fulfill your talent, or when you use out your talent for good, or for the right reason, then you change the whole creation, because it's already been predetermined when God created Adam, every person that would come out from Adam, and what would be their talent, and why they would be given this talent, and for the purpose of creation, which is unbelievable. If you understand this message, this is mind-blowing. 2 was appointed at the time of the master craftsman. This is then what the verse says, see, I have called by the name of Betzalel. That's why the verse says, see, I have called by the name. It's already called already. Something already. Don't worry, Moshe Rabbeinu. You're afraid who's going to build this Mishkan? When Adam was created, Betzalel was already established as the guy who's going to do. His name is recorded already. It's been documented, and that's the guy who's going to build the Mishkan. That's going to be the master craftsman who's going to know everything. We'll be able to direct everything. We'll be able to be involved in everything because he will know everything. He's been preordained to be this entity in the world. But the truth is, Betzalel was given, the greatness of Betzalel was given. He had all talents. He was a multi-talented individual. But every person had their own talents, the Torah says. Every person came to the building of the Mishkan with their own talents. And even there were certain women who came with an extremely interesting talent. And that was that there's a Rashi, if you remember the reading of we did it in the Parsha, Tovu Se'izim. Torah says, and all the women, it's in text number 4a on page 181. The verse says, all the women whose hearts inspired them to wisdom to spun the goat here. Every time I learned in Rashi, it's amazing in Rashi. I mean, why do you need to say, Tavu ha'izim, they spun the goats? It doesn't make sense. They should have spun the goat here. It doesn't say, so the Gemara says, Rashi says, this constitutes a superior skill. For the women spun on the backs of the goats. That means they spun the hair. Again, I'm not my mother used to do, what do they call it? Netting? But they did it on the back. What? Needlework?
Knitting. Your mother was knitting.
Knitting. Thank you. So she was unbelievable. She knew how to make beautiful yard site. Actually, is next week. You know how to make beautiful sweaters and stuff. She was a master. She did it closed eyes. But here they did this on while it was still the goat was there. So they did this thing on the goat. Why would they need to do that? The farnuk, I mean, why did they need to do that? Why did they need to weave it on the goat itself while the goat is still there and then take it off the goat? So that the Sefarna writes, the spinning the wool while it remains on the bodies of the goats, as the sages explained, to maintain its full luster. They wanted that because the second you cut it off, it loses its shine a little bit. So here they wanted that this goat's hair, this beautiful thing that was going to come from this goat, also they had to take it off, when they showed it to Moshe Rabbeinu, would be in its full glory. There are many materials that once removed from the natural habitat begins to decline in its quality, such as bees' honey. So these women wanted to show their unbelievable talent that they can actually spun, I don't know exactly how you do it, on the backs of the animal itself, while the animal is still there, which is truly amazing. truly amazing talent. And what do they do with this talent? They use this talent to the Beis Hamikdash. Gave them the talent, self-understood. God gave him the talent. That's the Medrash. The Medrash says, just like Bezalel was given a talent, so too God gave these women this talent. God gave these people a talent that they'll be able to weave and spin the hair of the goat on the goat. So the Rebbe says, the Rebbe takes this concept. That's the beauty of the Sikha over here. Because why is it important to tell us this? I mean, so they were, the Eibishter gave them great wisdom. Medrash, the Medrash, what's the Medrash you're asking? The Medrash is
No, don't worry.
So the Rebbe says the first lesson we learn from these women, whose hearts inspired them with wisdom, is that when God gives a person a certain knack or talent, they must know that it's not to be used solely for personal ends. Not only for personal. That's not what God gave me a talent. God is the one who gave me a talent. Rather, that their mission is to build a talent. That was the greatness. They took their talents and they said, you know why God gave me this talent? This talent to build the Mishkan. If I have a talent, a unique talent that I can weave upon the back of an animal, then I need to, what do I need to do? To use it out as a show. I need to use this out as to build, how can I bring this to the building of the Mishkan? To make a word, a habitat for God. We ought to be like the woman of the tabernacle. They possess a unique talent and they realize that it's the gift from God to use it in the building of the tabernacle, to make a place for God's presence to dwell. These women were not specifically instructed to utilize this unique talent. That's the beauty of the Parsha. Again, the Vayaka Pekudei is about man's work. They did things that even God didn't ask them to do. Where do we see in the Torah that God asked them to weave the goat's hair on the back of the animal? They said, no, we have a talent to be able to weave on the back of an animal so that it shouldn't lose its luster. And we're going to use this talent for the sake of heaven. We're going to use this talent for the concept of the Beis Hamikdash. And that's an amazing thing. And they were motivated to do so on their own for God. The Torah records this narrative to impart a message for all times. Now the question is, what is really the lesson to us? And the lesson to us is, self-understood, is, I don't want to use I'm going to use the words of the Alter Rebbe, but I know some people don't like certain words that I used. I'll try to stick away from it my best as possible. But we have in the world what is good and what is not good. And then we have no man's land. What's good and what's not good. In Torah, what is in the world, what is good? Being a good person. What is not good? What do we translate as not good? Hurting somebody. Hurting somebody. That's how we translate not good. Even hurting yourself is not good. But hurting somebody else is surely worse than even hurting yourself. So you're allowed to hurt yourself. It's your body. You can do whatever you want with your body. So what is good and what's not good? What's good is what you do good to others or to yourself, and what is bad, what is not good, is what you hurt somebody else. That's the good and the bad. In the Torah, we know that's not true. That is untrue. Whether we want to accept it or don't want to accept it, that is the way the Torah. God looks at things that are holy is good. And that's unholy is not good. I'm not using the word bad, is not good. What is holy is good, because holiness is about connections and about purpose. It's not only about connection, it's about purpose. The Eibishter created the world for a purpose. And everything that God creates in this world, as the Mishnah says, Kol ma shebara kadosh baruch hu ba'olamai, everything God creates in this world, lo bara ela l'chvoidai, God created for the glory of God. And therefore, everything that is holy, everything, whether it's in the positive of doing something with it, holiness, or going away from it, separating yourself from it, either way, because it's unholy, and I'm not going to connect myself to something that's unholy, then you have those two entities. We have certain things that are holy or could be made holy, and we should always connect it to holiness. There are certain things that are unholy in the Torah. Like a Jew eating a pig. A pig to be eaten is not possible for a Jew to eat. And there's no way he can take this concept of eating a pig and becoming holy. It's just not possible. It's impossible. And therefore, to a Jew, in the concept of his purpose in life, he needs to separate himself from the pig. Not that the pig is a bad animal, not that the pig is bad, but in the concept of the purpose of a Jew coming to the world and fulfilling his purpose in the world, this pig is unholy, and it cannot be elevated and cannot be connected to holiness. And therefore, how do I serve God? Is by sticking away from that. And so to every sin. I just picked the pig because we all realize, we know that we shouldn't eat pig. So for example, Pesach is coming around the corner. I know that there's 8 days, 9 days, where I need to stick away from eating chametz. That's it. I know that that's the reality. That the Eibishter wants, I should not eat chametz. And by me eating chametz, is I'm going to connect at that time. See, that's a time period. Because chametz is not unholy. Chametz a whole year, I can eat chametz gesund tehed. And I make a bracha on it. But on Pesach, for the 8 days of Pesach, I cannot eat chametz. Because at that time, so there you see the concept is a godly concept, I'm telling you. It's not a concept of good and bad that humans, the Eibush says that bread is not good on these 8 days. It's wonderful for the other days of the year. It is a period of time that this bread and all leaven becomes prohibited to a Jew. That's it. And therefore, a Jew runs away from the chametz. He hides the chametz. He has no connection. The more I can disconnect from chametz, the Arizal writes, the more a Jew can disconnect from chametz, the more he won't sin. Why? Because if I can disconnect from chametz totally, emotionally, physically, even to think about chametz, the more I can disconnect. And why am I disconnecting from? Why am I against chametz? I eat chametz a whole year. I enjoy chametz. There's nothing wrong. I make a bracha on chametz. Every Shabbos, every day I eat bread. I make a bracha. It's a great thing. But suddenly, the Eibusha says, for these 8 days, bingo, I want you to separate from yourself. You cannot eat this chametz. You can eat it a day later. You can't eat it now. So if a Jew understands that concept for 8 days, so then he understands, he should be able to comprehend when the Eibusha says, don't do X, don't do Y, don't do Z. It's a concept of Tumah and Tana. It's a concept of a godly good and not good. You might not comprehend it. You might say, what's wrong with it? If it was good yesterday, how is it bad today? If it's good tomorrow, why is it terrible today? Because that's God. It's a godly concept. It's a God's concept of what is good and what's not good. It's not my concept. Because if it was my concept, if it's bad yesterday, it's bad today. It's a godly concept. And therefore, the Eibishter wanted a Jew should be able to put on glasses of a godly concept. And Baruch Hashem, most Jews, Baruch Hashem, keep Pesach, I believe. A good 95% of Jews keep Pesach. Even though they don't do maybe other things, but maybe Pesach should teach them to this lesson. If they can do it for 8 days, something that's above their logic, and they know they do it because the Torah says so, even though maybe it doesn't make sense to me, But that's what God wants. God says this is good and that's not bad. This is not good. So we have to be able to put the glasses upon our eyes or our mind, maybe, to comprehend the way God understood holiness and unholiness. What is good for me, and what, if you want to, don't use good and bad, what is purposeful for me as my soul, as a Jewish soul, what is the purpose and what is unpurposeful. And therefore, I'm in the disconnect from things that are not purposeful for my soul. If that would be the better wording. So the Alter Rebbe, look at the way the Alter Rebbe tries to explain it. And the Alter Rebbe says in text number 7 in Putei Torah, but it's actually, we touched on it today in the Chitas of the day. The clip is dim and concealed divine sparks from every angle. So the divine light is no longer discernible in them. That's klippa. Klippa is a covering. To the extent that it appears to exist independently of God. See, I want to emphasize those words. And if you have a question, don't be shy. Independently of God, that's alone. See, that's when I say, you know what? I don't understand God's purpose, and therefore I'm going to go my purpose. I'm going to go my human purpose. I'm going to use my intellect. So that's my own independence. A Jew is supposed to have his intellect, but he's also supposed to, in a way, put on God's vision. What was God's vision in this concept? Whether I understand it or not. It's like if I would want to do your wishes, right? If I would want to do what you wanted me to do. So now I'm going to ask you, what is your vision? Might not be my vision, but what is your vision? What is your vision in this concept? I need to be able to listen at least to your vision. You know, we learned the Gemara yesterday. The Gemara says Hillel was chosen that halacha should be like him. Why? Because he listened to Beis Shammai. He listened to another person's opinion. He disagreed with that person. He disagreed with Beis Shammai in halacha, but he listened to him. He listened. He even repeated that opinion and ultimately his own opinion. He would say Beis Shammai's opinion before his opinion. That shows the humility of Hillel. That even though he disagreed with Beis Shammai, not that he said, you know what, since I disagree, I'm not going to listen to him. I disagree with him. Halavai, we'd all learn to have such kind of arguments with each other. That we would listen to another person's opinion. We might not agree with it, but we're not dismissing another person's opinion. Now that's the example between two people. We should surely listen to God's opinion. And we should be mevatel ourselves to God's opinion. And we are. In a lot of things and many things in our lives, we do things as Jews because that's what God wanted us to do. That was the opinion of God, that this is what God said, this is the purpose of the year. And we acquiesced to that purpose. We acquiesced to that purpose. So but we're still human beings, and we have a nefesh of Bahamas, and we have an animalistic soul, which Kabbalah and the Alter Rebbe coins it the klippa. We have this klippa, we have this covering, and that covers over the truth. Until we say, no, there's certain things, I have my own existence. I have my own opinion. I disagree I don't want to even hear God's opinion because God's opinion might influence me. I'm not going to even listen to God's opinion. This is my opinion, and I don't want to, because I don't want to change. So why would I hear somebody else's opinion? Why would I listen to God's opinion? So I put this wall up. I put this clip up. I put this wall up. I say, I'm not interested in any other opinion because I don't want to be influenced. I want to change. So why would I listen to somebody else's opinion? That's the ultimate klippa. That's the ultimate curtain, wall that we put between us and God's opinion. We might even know God's opinion, but we put this wall up. Thus, they are called klippas. They are like a peel that wraps and encompasses the fruit contained within it. In similar fashion, the clipper conceals the divine spark, like a shell around a nut. The only way to extract the fruit is to break the shell. You have to break you got to break. We need to overcome that wall. We need to listen to God's opinion. We need to give God a chance. We need to break this wall down. To extract the sparks of holiness from the clippers that hide them, clippers must be broken. We need to break the wall. We need this imaginary wall, because as the Gemara says, that it's an imaginary wall. There's no separation between me and God. God is one with me and I'm one with God. But I have this imaginary clipper. I have this imaginary wall in my mind that I've decided that this is the clipper. This is the clipper. This is the way it is. You know, in the world, you're guilty, you're innocent until proven guilty, right? You're innocent until proven guilty, right? That's the way the world is. That's the way we say in the world. It's above my side, trust me. But because once they go after you, you're guilty. Now you have to prove your innocence. But that's the way it says. You're innocent until proven guilty. In Torah, it's the other way around. Not concerning a legal matter. In a spiritual world, it's the opposite. You're guilty until you're proven innocent. You have a nefesh habahamis until you're proven that you can break your nefesh habahamis. You have a clipper until you prove that you don't have the clipper. Because since we have an animalistic soul, you're guilty in a spiritual sense. And now you have to break that clipper. You cannot say, I don't have a clipper. I don't have ego. I don't have animalistic evil traits. Oh, don't say the word evil. I don't have animalistic physical traits. I do. Reality. Now prove that you can break it. Now prove that you can overcome it. That's the way it goes. So it's the other way around. We know the truth that we're not perfect. Now prove that you can be talented. Prove that you Prove that you can do things because God gave you the talent, not because you gave yourself to it. Prove that you can do things because God gave you the talent. God gave you the capability. Take down the wall. Stop thinking of yourself the way this clipper wants you to think, and putting yourself into your own natural life. Give yourself the opportunity the way God looks at you, the way God wants you to live, the way God wants you to use out your talents in this world. And that's what the Alter Rebbe writes. Clipper includes all deed under the sun, that all vanity and affliction of the spirit, as well as the world's words and thoughts that are not directed to God's service. That's what most of the things we do, 99% of the day, is all about ourselves. And because we have this clipper, we have this cover, we say it's all about yourself. No, God brought me to the world. Why did God bring me to the world at this present time? If I can use more of my talent and more of my capability during my day, more for a purposeful concept than just for a selfish concept. Or I cannot do that. Or I have two lives. I have my spiritual life and I have my day-to-day life. And my day-to-day life has nothing to do with my spiritual life. That is the clipper. That is the covering that forces a person to not really live life to the way God wants you to live life. And God wants you to live life to the fullest, self-understood. This is the meaning of Kabbalistic term, Sitra Achra, literally the other side. It's not the side of holiness, that's it. The Eibishter created you, created each and every one of us. He gave us all our talents. He gave us all our purposes. Let's take away that clipper of our self-doubt or our self-thinking what we are and let God in. Maybe we would be able to have unbelievable talents. Maybe we'll be able to have unbelievable realities. That the Jews, the Ramban, Nachmanides writes, that the Jewish people, the dust came out of Egypt. could realize the talents they had after 210 years working with bricks and mortar, they realized, wait a second, we're talented people. We have unbelievable talents. Physical talents. We're not talking about, forget about the wisdom and the talent and the intellect. They had unbelievable, they built a Mishkan. They built this tabernacle out of gold that was unbelievable in a very short time. They started on the 11th day of Tishrei. They ended on the 25th day of Kislev. So you have the whole Cheshvan, almost the whole Kislev, 2 months, less than 2 months. And don't forget the Shabbos that's in between. They built this whole Mishkan in a very short time. A beautiful building, a very crafty, handcrafted. There was no machinery. There was no, everything was done by hand. Now, God is only manifest, and that's what surrenders to him. Purpose. The Eibishter created the world for purpose. Anything, however, that does not surrender itself to him, to God, but consider itself as an independent actor, does not receive its life when God's engaged in a holy animated energy, rather from a disengaged source of giving. So greatly diminished does this energy become that it's able to become contracted and vested in a state of exile within the seemingly independent entity, giving its vitality and existence. So therefore, the Alter Rebbe says, why be connected to an energy that is not purposeful, not an energy that is not everlasting, an unbelievable, powerful energy when you're only connected to your selfish, clippus dika energy. Yes, Jean. What do you want to say?
I don't think I completely understand what you just said right before you said this. When you started with God is only manifest, I think you were reading, but could you just rephrase that a little bit? Because I don't think it wasn't very user friendly for me. If you could rephrase it, I'd appreciate it.
The Eibishter created the world for a purpose, Kedusha. The Eibishter created the world for Kedusha, for the concept of holiness. And that's for the concept of purpose, or the concept of the connection. That's the reason why God created this world. Anything that falls out of that concept is not God's purpose, is missing God's purpose. It's as simple as that. If it's connected to, that's the difference between connected and disconnected. You're connected to God when you're connected to God's purpose. It's like in essence with me, it's a human connection too. If we're here for each other, then we're here and we're doing things for each other. You're doing something for somebody else. Gesundheit. Has nothing to do with me. You're doing it for somebody else. So you're disconnected from me. God's created the world for a purpose. And therefore, I know you don't like the word surrender, because that's a little harsh word. That's the Alter Rebbe's word. But it means to be committed, to be attached, to be humbled by God's purpose. The Eibishter created us with a nefesh habahamis, so therefore that's why we need to be humble, because we have a selfish mode in our existence. We are selfish people by nature. But the Eibishter says, I created you with a nefesh habahamis, an animalistic soul, which makes you selfish. Because I want it to be your service, not you should be committed to me because you are automatically committed to me. I want you to be committed because you want to be committed to me. Chachma slave. You look in the Torah, the Mefarshim say that the Eibishter gave chachma to a person who had chachma. If they had no chachma to begin with, then why would God give them chachma? A person that wants to be connected, the Eibishter says, I'll connect. I'll connect. So it's the desire of man to want to be connected to this purpose. Or a person can live his whole life behind this wall. Behind this wall. He can live the whole life behind the wall of connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He's going to live his life like anybody else. But the Eibishter wanted a person should have a purposeful life. It shouldn't be a life that has no connection. It should be a life that should be connected to God, which would automatically create the concept of the purpose, the true purpose in your life, the true talent that God gave you in your life. So look. Okay, let's go to the next wording of the Alter Rebbe. I'm going to read it again. Maybe some things you like the words or not. So there are the Alter 8b in page 186. There are levels of klippa that serve as an intermediary between the utter evil and the realms of holiness. Again, utter evil means utter a thing that is prohibited in the Torah. That's evil to a Jew. I'm not saying it's evil to the world. It's evil to a Jew. I said a pig. To a Jew, it's utterly evil to eat a pig. Because there's no purpose that he can receive from eating this pig. That's why it's evil. Not because the pig is evil. And the proof is that it's only to a Jew. It's not to a non-Jew. A non-Jew can eat a pig. It's untaid. But to a Jew, it's evil because it is totally disconnected from that purpose. Why? Because that's what God says. I can't tell you why. That's what the Eibusha says. To a Yid, since it has no capability of a purpose to him, it's totally evil. Cannot be evil. You can all agree on that, I believe. To a Jew, shouldn't eat pig. A Jew should not eat milk and meat together. Cannot do anything with it. No, you can't have any pleasure from it. There's no gain from it. Gainless situation is evil. So therefore, pig, not kosher, etc., etc. Every aved in the Torah. I have to go through all the aveds. That is evil. In the Torah, it's evil. You're not hurting anybody. Nobody's going to get hurt if you eat pig. You didn't hurt anybody. It's evil to your soul. That's why it's evil. It's evil to my neshama. Eating chametz on Pesach is evil to my neshama. Why? Because my neshama has nothing from this thing. Totally. Why? Because my neshama is godly, and it never wants to go against God, and therefore eating chametz on Pesach to him, it is an evil act. You're hurting it. Or you want to say this way, I can say you're hurting a neshama. So it's an evil act. You're hurting your soul. Evil act. People will say that's not really evil, even when you hurt somebody's body. But that's not the Torah. That's not the way the Torah looks at the concept of evil. So that's why it's hard sometimes to handle these words. So, but this Alter Rebbe, sometimes they can include the pure evil, and sometimes they can be elevated and reduced into holy space. That's the middle rung. Things that are not evil and things that are not holy. So kosher food. Eating a steak is not evil. It's good. It's kosher. But if in the Torah, if I eat it for the sake of a purpose, I have elevated to holiness. If I eat it for gluttonous reasons, then I've diminished its value. I don't want to say gone to evil, not gone to good. Okay? Didn't go to evil because you could ultimately, as the Alter Rebbe says, you could ultimately use out the energy for Kedusha. So you always have the capability to elevate anything that is allowed. Things that are unallowed are Aveda. You got to do tshuva law. You got to do unbelievable tshuva to rectify it. For example, when one eats fatty beef or drinks spicy wine, not for personal pleasure, but to open his mind to serve God and to the study of Torah, Rava said, wine and fragrance make my mind more receptive. Likewise, when one eats meat and drinks wine to fulfill their obligation to enjoy the Shabbos and the festival, you come on Shabbos, you can eat a lot of food. Baruch Hashem, Shabbos, you have to enjoy. For these instances, the life force of the meat and wine, which flows from Klippas Noiga, right? This wine and meat is also physical, and therefore they have still a covering, but it's called a covering that shines, means that the capability of opening it easily is extracted and elevated to God like an offering. Like it brought, that's why when you sit Friday night at your table and you eat Shabbos meal, it's like you're bringing a carbon. Bring a sacrifice. A similar thing happens when one uses humor to sharpen his mind and gladden the hearts for divine service of Torah study, which requires joy. So if you use humor, you say a joke to open up the people's minds or your own mind to be able to serve God in joy, then humor is good.
That's
Rava
why you
would-
joke before your sermons.
That's why I say a joke. But because I tried, but usually my jokes lately have not been working. Rava would do this by making humorous remarks to his students before he was studying, bringing them to a good cheer, and thus making them more receptive to subsequent lessons. So you can imagine, you see, it's hard for us to imagine because we think, what's wrong with humor? You see, that's why you have to look at, you have to look at the eyes of we as humans that say, what's the big deal of saying a joke? What's the big deal? What's a joke? It's a joke. It's a clean joke. I can't say a dirty joke. It's a clean joke. What's the problem? Whoever, right? But the Torah says no. The Torah says elevate yourself. Who says jokes? What is the purpose of a joke? Is it a purpose? Are you doing something purposeful? Or are you doing, the Lubavitch Rebbe never said jokes. I promise you. He didn't start off his speech with a joke. His Farbrengen didn't start off with a joke. My father used to, I always say that. He said, why are you joking? My father, why are you joking? Too many jokes. You want one joke, that's it. Too many jokes. But it's hard for us to understand that. It's hard to think of. My father was a Jew, the Lubavitch Rebbe, these were Jews that they were serious in the relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It was not a joking matter. It was a serious matter. They served the Eibishter with all the heart, with all the soul, with all their mind. They gave their lives up for Yiddishkeit. It's hard for us to comprehend that. It's hard for us to comprehend that concept. It really is. It's hard for me to comprehend. Even though I know I've learned this, it's hard for me to comprehend this concept in its fullest. Because why? Not because I'm a bad person. It's because I have an nefesh habahamis, and I know what it's all about. It's about me. I want to enjoy life. I want to have a good life, and happiness, humor is all about good life, which is not bad, which is good as long as I can say I want to have a good life because I want to serve God. I want to also serve God with joy and happiness. So that's why we need to flip it a little bit. We need to massage it a little bit. Have some, have a different way of thinking. We all could, because David still wants everybody to have a good life. But this needs to be with a little bit of purpose, with a little bit of a reason that I'm having a good life to have, maybe to live a happier Jewish life, to be able to serve God with joy, etc., etc. So if we can just bring that concept to like Shabbos. Shabbos is easy. We have a good meal because it's Shabbos. And so it's easy. It's like in our mind already. It's already trained in our mind. Everybody has a Friday night meal. We have a Shabbos meal for Shabbos. Nobody's making this meal on a Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. They're doing it for Shabbos. It's automatically ingrained in ourselves. Can we start ingraining in ourselves to have the same concept? To be able to say, I have a talent, I have a good thing, I enjoy something in this world. Can I also bring God into the picture? Or it's impossible. I have to be two different guys. There's my talent, my work talent, and there's my godly talent. Or could I bring the two together? Can I bring the two pictures together? And I believe that that's what the Torah wanted. That's the accomplishment of what the Torah wanted. That God didn't want to take away your talents. He gave you your talents. God doesn't want you not to enjoy the world. He wants you to enjoy it. That's why he created this beautiful world. But he wants you to be able to bring in the other concept a little bit. To be able to bring in that, you know what? It's not only for the sake of this world. It's not only for the sake of the physical world. It's also, there's a godly purpose in this beautiful world. There's a godly purpose in why this world is beautiful, and why I have this talent, and in why I have it at this present time. Can we bring the two things together? That's really the question. The Torah, I think, believes you could bring the two things together. And the Rebbe wants to prove from the Parsha that the Jews in the desert did bring these two things together. And that's why the Torah accentuates the greatness of these people, that they brought their talents to the building of the Mishkan. They brought all the talents that they were asked for, and talents that they weren't even asked for. They brought their talents for the service of the temple. So by conscious, one who eats meat glutton, I don't want to really say, I don't know why that to say, bring this down, but again, we're going to read it. But one who eats gluttonously and imbues wine for the satisfaction of the desire of the body and the animal soul causes the life force of the meat and the wine ingested to temporarily, because it's kosher food, to temporarily observe within utterly evil. Again, utterly evil for the purpose of my soul. The Rebbe says, and this again, read this, the Rebbe's words, and I'm not going to say it the way it is. The permissible, when done for one's pleasure, is completely evil, as the Alter Rebbe writes in Tanya in chapter 7. For you are commanded, sanctify yourself with what is permitted to you. One must introduce sanctity into those matters that are permissible, so that they serve the purpose of enhancing one's Torah, mitzvahs, fear of God, and good character traits. The Rebbe ends on page 189. We're coming slowly to the end of this, I think. The ideal mode of serving God is that you should be able to sense the divine within the business you conduct and within the fields of mundane employment. This requires more than engaging in labor or commerce for the sake of heaven. It lends us a spiritual goal to otherwise mundane activities. Rather, beyond that, we should strive to sanctify the mundane activities themselves. This is true in the meaning of the verse. In all your ways, know God. Not only should your activities be oriented towards divine, but there should be a divine awareness within the activities themselves. Paragraph for this is eating on Shabbos, whereby the physical act of eating itself is a fulfillment of divine nature. We feel the Shabbos. We feel the difference in the eating of Shabbos. Similarly, our weekday food consumption, and for the matter of all mundane activities, should be conducted not only for the sake of subsequent sacred goals, but also in an immediate methods of experience divine awareness. That's what the Eibishter wanted. That's what God wanted. So here we have another expression, beautiful. And this is a taste, a beautiful taste on a pasuk in the Torah. In Deuteronomy, it says, if a sign and a wonder in which he spoke to you happens, a navi sheker, a false prophet comes to you, and this false prophet shows you miracles, and he tells you, look, I'm a prophet, I've shown you miracles, and therefore, since I've shown you miracles, let's go and worship an idol. Let's go. I've shown you miracles. You should not heed. The pasuk continues. You should not heed the words of that prophet or to the dreamer, for God is testing you to know whether you really love God with all your heart and with all your soul. It's a test. Question is asked. Test us like this. Why does God test it? You give a guy, a navi, you give this guy powers that are supernatural. He's doing a miracle. He shows you a miracle. God, so why would God bring a person to do such a test? Why would God give this guy a miracle to give you? Why would God give you give this guy miracle powers to put you in a test. In essence, the guy's doing a miracle, and it's a miracle. And the Torah says, this is all a test. This guy's miracle that he's doing is fake. You're not going to be able to realize that, but it's a test. The idea that Taisus writes in 11b, the idea in this verse is that even when it turns out that this person is indeed extraordinary, we must withstand the test. The Torah allows for the possibility for a false prophet will indeed demonstrate miraculous things. Why would God grant such a person with remarkable and miraculous capabilities? The verse later indicates that it's a test for us. That would mean that that from the very beginning of humanity's mission to serve God on earth, God determined in the way as a strong challenger intended only for Jewish people to overcome. Is that such a thing is possible as a result of humanity's free will. God will endow certain people with extraordinary talents for them to actualize in the form of true prophecy. Now, God gave this guy, this false prophet, an unbelievable talent. He gave him prophecy. He gave him prophecy. He gave him miracles. He can actually make a miracle happen. This guy can make a miracle happen. And he uses his talent for the opposite. And God wants to teach us that we should learn from this Navi. We should learn from this prophet who God has given him unbelievable talents. And he's using it for negative. What should we learn? That's the test. Test is what we should do with our talents. If this Navi can use out his talents for negativity, how should I use out my talents? That's how Taisus learns this pasuk. Now, if people do not make the necessary steps to achieve this prophetic truth, they will retain their extraordinary talents, and they thus prone to using it negatively. So it's with the talents that God gives to a person. They are intended for a holy purpose. That's why God gave the talent. It was given it for a holy purpose. Many misappropriate them for negative things. So that's why the Torah says the truth is, many of us are false prophets. We're using our talents, God-given talents, for negative things. Why would you use it out for negative things? Therefore, the Gemara says, 12a, this is my God, and I'll make him, and I will glorify him. Beauty yourself before him is a mitzvah. Make before him a beautiful sukkah, a beautiful lulav, a beautiful shofar, a beautiful tzitzis. Beautify parchments for a Torah scroll, and write in his name in a beautiful ink and beautiful quill with an expert scribe, and wrap the scroll in beautiful silphager. Make your Yiddishkeit beautiful. It's a talent. Like the Yidden made the Beis Hamikdash beautiful. Make your Yiddishkeit beautiful. You have a talent to make Judaism beautiful. Make it beautiful. Therefore, the Gemara Maimonides says, one who desires to gain merit, subjugate their evil inclination, and amplify generosity, should bring their sacrifice with the most desire. For it's written in Torah, and Abel brought from the chosen flock, from the superior ones, and God turned to Abel in his offering. Same applies to everything given for the sake of good, of the good God. It should be most attractive and most highest quality. If one builds a house of prayer, it should be more attractive than their own home. When feeding the hungry, give them the best and tastiest foods on the table. When clothing the naked, give them attractive garments. When consecrating something, consecrate the best. The Rambam gives us a simple way to do this. He says, make everything beautiful. Have the most beautiful tefillin, have the most beautiful mezuzah, whatever you can afford. Have the most, you should have a beautiful couch and you should have a beautiful mezuzah. Don't have a beautiful couch and have the cheapest mezuzah on your door. Have the most beautiful mezuzah on your door. You have a talent, you have the capability, use it out not only for yourself, selfish things, use it out for God. Maimonides says, our rabbis of blessed memory said, it's becoming that a sage should have a pleasant dwelling, a beautiful wife, and domestic comfort. It's Maimonides. For one becomes weary when one's mind is dulled by continued mental concentration upon difficult problems. Thus, just the body becomes exhausted from hard labor, and then by rest and refreshment recovers. So is necessary for the mind to have relaxation by gazing upon pictures and other beautiful objects. That is weariness, without his weariness may be dispelled. It's related. When the rabbis became exhausted from study, they were accustomed engaging in the entertaining conversation. So that's how they did it. We know there were great sages who used to go and look at art, go to art galleries. They would see the greatness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the making of art. This point of view, therefore, the use of pictures and embroideries for beautifying the house, the furniture, and the clothes is not to be considered immoral, but immoral or unnecessary. It's actually an important thing. It brings a person some tranquility in his life. To have beautiful furniture, to have beautiful pictures in his house. He ends of this letter, this class with two beautiful letters of the Rebbe. A little long, let's read it quickly. The Rebbe writes a letter to somebody. Follows, I'm extremely happy to read that you are working with your artistic talent and you are preparing to hold an exhibition as an artist. And you have already received favorable reviews in the press. Surely you will progress in utilizing of the talent that God has granted you towards the strengthening of Yiddishkeit and God-fearing behaviors. I confine myself to a general comment in which I hope to ultimately your practice in your practical situation. My comment is based on the saying of the Baal Shem Tov, which my father-in-law, the Rebbe, would often repeat, that a person can derive a lesson in the service of God from everything that he sees or he hears. As you're already aware, the primary talent of an artist is the ability to step away from the externalities of things and disregard its outer form, to gaze into the innerness and to perceive its essence, and to be able to convey this in its painting. Thus, the object is revealed as it's never been seen before, since its inner context was obscured by secondary things. The artist exposes the essence of the thing he portrays, causing the one who looks at the painting to perceive it in another truly light, and to realize his superior perception was deficient. Wow. That's why I don't comprehend paintings. And this is one of the foundations of man's service to his creator. As we know from the Torah, and particularly from the teaching of Chassidus, that the entirety of creation stems from the Word of God. And the Word of God is what brings into existence and sustains it in every moment of time. It's only the divine power of Tzimtzum. The Rebbe should say is that the Rebbe is comparing the painting to the Eibishter creating the world, holds the divine life force in a state of concealment and obscurity. And we perceive only its outer form, the physical reality. Our mission in life, based on the simple faith that there is none else besides him, is that we should approach everything in life with this perspective, that we should strive to reveal as much as possible the divine essence in everything, and to minimize to the extent that we are able in the concealment by the extremities of creation. That is the saying of a great sage who once said that he sees in Rembrandt's pictures the light of God that's mentioned in the first day of creation. That's the power of a painter, to be able to hide what he really wants to do in the painting, the person to ultimately be able to see what he sees in this painting. What is the true light that he sees in this painting? The Rebbe ends off. I would like to take this opportunity to make a further point, which I had an occasion to mention to our very distinguished friend, Mr. Chaim Yaakov Lipschitz. I'm glad to note is going to open an exhibition. I have known Mr. Lipschitz for many years, and I know his sincere interest in all good things, especially those connected to our people. At this point, the point is that those who have divinely gifted in art, whether in sculpture or painting or the like, have the privilege of being able to convert an inanimate thing, such as a brush, paint, and canvas, or wood or stone, into a living form. In a deeper sense, it's the ability to transform a certain extent the material into the spiritual. Even where the creation is still life, it's certainly where the artistic work has to do with the living creatures and humans. How much more so if the art medium is used to advance ideas, specifically reflecting Torah mitzvahs, which will arise the artistic skills to its highest level. Wow. That was the Lubavitcher Rebbe, who told everybody to use their talent for the sake of serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu, how they can teach people through their painting what means to serve, what means so that the artist uses talent, how to be able to bring out true concepts. The Rebbe once asked a what's the difference between a photographer, a person takes a picture with a camera, or a person that paints a picture. So the camera captures really the picture better than a painter. Even a person who paints a realistic picture, a real picture, is not totally. But the painted picture is much more expensive, because in the painted picture you have the artist. On the camera you have nobody, just the camera. The camera took a picture. But in the painting, you have the artist, and you can understand the artist, and you can comprehend what the artist. If you know art, then you can comprehend what the artist had in the picture and what he wanted to bring out in the picture. That's why there's some paintings that are good, and some paintings that the artists want to bring out negative things in their painting. And you should, if you have the capability to understand art, to comprehend what art is. Beautiful sikh of the Rebbe, and this concept, and we should all, in essence, self-understood, we should all use our talents, the Shem Shemaim, to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to make this world a better world, and to bring us all closer to God, which that is the purpose of our existence, and we should all have a wonderful, beautiful, happy